Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. President Bola Tinubu is finalising the long-awaited appointment of new ambassadors to Nigeria's foreign missions after months of diplomatic gaps and growing pressure over the absence of envoys abroad. Sources within the presidency confirmed that the president has ordered a final cleanup of the list of nominees, some of whom have died, retired or become ineligible since the initial screening by the Senate. The renewed push to finalize the ambassadorial list comes amid heightened tension following U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, accusing the Nigerian government of allowing the killing of Christians and also threatened possible military action. Tinubu had recalled all ambassadors in September 2023 as part of a comprehensive diplomatic review, leaving most of Nigeria's 109 missions, including 76 embassies, 22 high commissions and 11 consulates without substantive heads.
In a related update, President Bola Tinubu has declared an emergency on training facilities for the Nigeria Police Force, NPF, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, and other internal security agencies, citing concerns over their outdated condition. This also comes as the world watches closely as Nigeria takes stronger steps in its fight against terrorism following President Trump's threat. Joining us now to analyze this is Global Affairs Analyst Joi John. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll get into the conversation properly, but now let's take a look at this video and then we'll get to start our conversation with you.
We decide on the ambassadors.
Do we have a timeline?
Any moment from now.
Well, any moment from now can be next year.
No, it won't be next year.
Okay,
and I'm sure it won't go past this month.
Okay. And is there any reason why it took this long?
Well, of course, yeah, there had been government at offer explanation, even Minister of Foreign Affairs at offer explanation. It's about funding, and the last I checked, to most of our embassies, there are different level of. They need a lot of needs, whether vehicles, whether fixing. So you don't really want to send ambassadors who will go and be dealing with problems. So the president plan was to make sure that all the resources they need are made available to them. But like I said, it won't go past this month. We are going to have ambassadors.
Okay.
And that was an interview we had with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Temitope Ajayi. And you could see the explanation he gave there regarding why the ambassadors have yet to be appointed and why, the presidency is now set to appoint the ambassadors. He said it will happen very soon. Let's now bring in our guest, Joi John. Talk to us about this. The president is now set to appoint these ambassadors after 2 years of no representation. How does this prolonged absence of Nigerian ambassadors affect the country's diplomatic effectiveness? And how much damage control can the nation achieve once these ambassadors have been listed?
It's interesting that it took nearly 2 years for these appointments to happen. Diplomacy doesn't just pause because a government is busy at home. The world keeps moving, the diplomatic community keeps growing, relationships keep evolving. And Nigeria lost valuable time in the last 2 years, really with the absence of ambassadors, especially in a great A mission like Washington here. This is a period where international perception really mattered, and Nigeria was lacking here. But on the bright side of it, it's really good to see that the presidency is moving to fill that gap. To the second part of your question, in terms of the damage control here, once new ambassadors are appointed, whether it's passes this month, as the SSA to the president had said, or it comes up in the next month or two, they'll need to get working from day one. Focus on rebuilding credibility and reestablishing Nigeria's voice in our key missions, particularly the Great A missions. We had an ambassador in Washington, the late Professor Ambassador Defoye. He was a fantastic diplomat, astute diplomat for Nigeria, one of the best Nigeria has ever had in the world. How he died in Washington is still a mystery, but in his time, Nigeria had a lot of respect amongst the diplomatic community. So we would need someone in a country like the U.S. who will stand to defend Nigeria, be bold, not shy away from Nigerian groups like we've had in the past. We want someone who will be for all Nigerians and not just for a particular part of the country. We want someone who would sell Nigeria to the world. That's all about diplomacy.
Okay. Looking at the ambassadorial list, you just mentioned a former ambassador who had died. First off, I want us to go into the situation clearly. Now that we do not have ambassadors, I mean, you're in America, what has been the impact, especially for Nigerians who are living in the United States, who might want to quickly have one or two interactions, or better still, in this particular case of Donald Trump and Nigeria, no envoys, no nothing. What has it been like for Nigerians there?
Well, quite honestly, we've seen, in a nutshell, it's been okay. I would want to also give credit to His Excellency Ambassador Samson Tibuje, who is the Chargé d'Affaires in Washington. He's shuttled between Washington and New York, but he has kept the doors open for Nigerians. He has been accessible. He has had his office open for everyone. You have a problem, you can meet him and he will resolve it. So it's been great. We really haven't felt that vacuum on this level as citizens. I mean, what do the average citizen in Nigeria, in the US, or in diaspora wants to achieve? Passports, consular services, and the likes. But in terms of engagement, Chargé d'Affaires are really limited to what they can do for the country on a broader scope and how they can interact, or how much they can interact with the State Department. The citizens in groups, it's fine. We don't feel anything as long as an ambassador or Chargé d'Affaires. We don't see anything. But in terms of Nigeria's position, a full ambassador will do a lot. So it's a very important step for them to bring in a full-fledged ambassador to Washington, because when an ambassador is appointed to any accredited to any country, it shows that the country, the sending country, is willing to engage, willing to make amends, willing to listen. So if managed transparently, I think that it would really show the seriousness on the part of the Tinubu administration.
I mean, you have said that the Chargé d'Affaires, and rightfully so, their work and the scope of influence is limited. They might do great work, but there's only to a certain extent that they can get to. So definitely there's an importance, a huge necessity for the ambassadors to be appointed. But like you saw in that interview, the presidency said that, I mean, the reason they hadn't been appointed up until now is because of funds, access to funds, and the lack of it. Would you say that the reason why they're being appointed now is because the presidency has been able to, in some measure, rally the funds? Or can we clearly say that it is directly related to the threat by the President of the United States?
You know, well, that's a sweet question. I'm trying to find the best words to answer that. Why it took this long, or why it had to take a tweet from the U.S. president on Saturday to make these changes public, or is something that really baffles me. Look, I've seen more press statements since the weekend than I've seen in the past month. I mean, it's back to back. Everyone is writing how we're working, how we're doing this. You didn't have to take the U.S. president to threaten Nigeria for this. Yes, they talked about funding. That's something the Ministry of Foreign Affairs really would be in a better position to explain. But we've also had some projects going on in Nigeria that could have been shelved to ensure that Nigeria had its representation across board. But that's by the way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm just really happy, and I want to focus on the positive here, that the presidency is looking to make amends, regardless of if they were preempted by the tweet or the threat by the U.S. president. We would like to see how it goes, and even the U.S. itself would want to see accountability. That's all they want. There has to be some kind of consistency and accountability for Nigeria.
I mean, just to clarify that we do not have an official list yet. We're looking forward to that, but we're going by the statement given to us by the presidency that this will happen soon. I mean, I clearly asked him, my colleague asked him, soon can mean next year, and he clearly said it will not be next year. The year is almost coming to an end. We have a few weeks left, so we're expecting the list any moment now. What sort of impression, however, would you say that this has given to the international community? How would you say that this has affected our reputation, or has it affected our reputation on the international scene?
What particular?
The fact that we haven't had, the fact that we haven't had ambassadors up until now. Until now, rightfully.
So I'll say this. Nigeria is respected on the international scene. Amongst the diplomatic community, Nigeria commands a certain level of respect that is an envy to other countries from the African region. With that said, there are still roles that ambassadors play in diplomatic settings. When that vacuum is there, it's really hard to manage whatever perception. Of course, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and there will be times like this. There will be times where Nigeria will be full, they'll be full of praises for Nigeria. But this vacuum may not, even though I would like to say that it has not negatively affected the country as a whole based on the respect Nigeria has had over time. Even here, Nigeria has a lot of successful citizens in diaspora who are working. So you can't really fault Nigeria, but we can't continue to ride in the cloud. We can't continue to ride with that and be comfortable. It may not be a negative impact, but it's definitely a hole there, and I would love to see that hole filled up as soon as possible, just to manage whatever negative perceptions that may be growing, especially in light of this alleged genocide, on Christians in Nigeria. We need someone to manage it. We need talks. We need engagement with the diplomatic community. We need engagement with the State Department. The State Department needs to know. There has to be a one-on-one. There has to be some dialogue, and in the absence of dialogue, whatever perception people want to run with, they will run with.
Okay. Let's leave the ambassadorial conversation now and go straight to the major one, which has caused a stir. The threat of invasion and how Nigerians are taking it. I'd like to get some form of clarity and understanding on how Nigerians in the diaspora are taking it. Because down here in Nigeria, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of people. I mean, from our polls, we can see people who are saying, come through Trump. It's about time our leaders are taught a lesson on how to handle insecurity. They're trusting on the American firepower and their zest. While on the other side, you also have Nigerians who are saying, please do not, because you're not going to come here for free. You will want something in return. And then, as usual, if you go to X, it's all vibes. Everyone is having fun, catching cruise, as they say. But how are Nigerians in the diaspora taking that story as soon as it dropped? Can you share with us?
Well, you put me on a very tight spot. Now, I have seen the banter on Twitter. I have also seen calls in certain groups, certain political groups, asking for Nigerians to come out and protest against Trump. I don't know anybody that's going to do that. I mean, I don't know who's really going to leave their comfort of their offices or their homes to go protest in this. I mean, really, I think from my time, against the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. This could boil down to, for sure, have families back home. We all understand what's going on. We all know how the economy is, the state of the economy, and the progress being made. We know that. So when most people are going on, so when you see the status of things at home, and you know that, look, the call you have no business going to protest for any call got itself into. And I'm not focusing on the present administration because I've only been here for 2 years, but in the past administration, there were times that things should have been done better with the Ambassador Emenike, who was in DC. That was not done. We failed to capitalize on certain things. So Nigerians were really detached from that tenure in Washington, I will tell you. Very detached. In fact, New York, the consulate in New York, the permanent mission in New York is more of the Mecca for Nigerians, really. So if you touch one, you touch all. But here in Washington, I don't see any vibe really on anyone who cares about what's going on or to counter the U.S. government, really. So we would like to join our voices with our brothers and sisters back in Nigeria. Because they're on ground, they feel it, so they would like to just amplify their voices, if anything.
And from what you've seen, given the trajectory of President Donald Trump, those who, I mean, we've had guests on the show who say, particularly the SSA to the presidency on media and publicity, who joined us on Monday, the one whose clip we played, he did say that, of course, he didn't take him seriously. But do you take that threat by President Donald Trump seriously? And how do you think the presidency in Nigeria should take it?
So, you know, with U.S. President Donald Trump, he's quite unpredictable. He's not your typical politician. However you want to assess his personality, you never know what he's going to do next. That puts everyone on their toes around him. So can he do that? Absolutely, he can carry this out. But I will tell you this, the closest military base for the U.S. on the African continent is in Djibouti, the nation of Djibouti, and that's about 2,000 miles away from Nigeria. Before that attack is launched, you're not going to bring troops from the U.S. or from Washington or from New York or wherever, the National Guard, to come out to Africa. No, it will have to be from the base in Djibouti. Now, before that has to happen, a lot of work has to go in, a lot of logistics has to go in. So can it be done? Yes, it can. When? And how? I don't know. America has the B-12 bombers. They have the self-stealth bombers, whatever it is. Whatever they have to do can be done. It just all depends on how they want to go about it. Do they want it to be a long-term mission in Nigeria, or do they just want it to be quick and swift? And we just saw that about 2 months ago recently, where the stealth bombers went in, carried out the mission, and came right back to U.S. soil. But we don't want this to escalate. I would really not. Nobody wants this to escalate. We want this managed. And that's why I am very happy that the presidency is taking steps to put out representation and correct any misconceptions. That's really all what people want. So there are steps to this. It's not going to be an overnight thing. However, the negative impacts for this will be the elections are around the corner. And of course, people are already warming up for the 2027 elections. If the U.S. military is on ground for a prolonged period, we might as well just say bye-bye to the 2027 elections. And that's what I don't think any government will want a foreign presence or foreign boots on ground at this moment.
All right. Let's also look at the possible response that we did hear, especially from Nigeria here. I mean, you've talked about people in Washington, they don't really care what's going on, but possibly those in New York and other states are very interested in what's really happening between the United States president and that of Nigeria. Can you also shed more light on the political landscape in the United States? I mean, we've seen some of the politicians talking and putting so much interest in Nigeria. But in Nigeria is also a response story where our own politicians here from the Senate are equally responding. Some are talking tough and so on. What are those with political interests? What are they saying about this story?
So you see, I've seen comments from public officials. There was a tweet from Congressman Moore on this issue. So it's divided. Most Republicans, of course, are in full support of President Donald Trump. He has a cult following. But again, the political tone to this really cannot hold water. Regardless of what the people think or regardless of what the U.S. politicians say, don't allow anyone to write your story. You have the powers to write your story and craft your narrative. At this point, Nigeria has left a vacuum for misrepresentation, misunderstanding. We just have to make steps now to correct whatever negative conceptions that any side of the divide has. Regardless, again, and just to follow up to what I said earlier, no one really wants we just started re-enjoying democracy. We've been managing democracy for how many years now? So we cannot afford any rift. So there may be a political undertone, and that's why the presidency sees, and I believe the presidency sees the urgency to nip things in the bud now. If they come in, like I did say, we may as well forget about the 2027 elections. That will be done. I don't see them coming in and going out. They will stay in to put law and order. We've seen it happen in the past. They may spiral and, things will go out of control, or, it may be swift and sweet or quick, however you want to look at it. So politically, I don't want to really dwell more on that. I would like Nigeria to rather just rise up to the occasion and do what they have to do, regardless of whatever undertone there is.
All right, Joi John, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We do not want things to spiral out of control. Ultimately, what we want is a secure Nigeria for Nigerians where everyone feels safe, secure, regardless of religious expression. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.